enforce it because people stopped staying in the Dorchester Hotel, right? But he said he's going to enforce it. And in other countries, my understanding is Iran, for example, it's enforced in Iran.
Okay.
And I think even Pakistan.
If I'm
gay and I go with my gay boyfriend and I stay in a hotel and everybody knows and there were witnesses, I don't know whatever, I can be punished.
Okay.
Yeah?
That's a good point. Let's talk about it. A very good point. You're raising very intelligent questions and we want to address them. If someone wants to be homosexual in a Muslim state, in a Muslim country, you can be homosexual in your home. Do what you want, okay? Do it however you want. 100%. The moment you bring it in public and you want other people to be like you, then there is a law. Islam, you see, Islamic societies are based upon a divine law. We believe in a divine law. We do not have the power to change it. That law cannot be changed because we believe it is from God. God created us. He gave us a law to live by. Let me finish. Okay, in that law, if there's a clause that you cannot do X, Y, and Z, we have to live by that. We can't be hypocrites. We can't pick and choose. Wait,
hang on a second. I understand that you and other Muslims believe what they want to believe about God and divine law. The problem is there's 7.5 billion people on the planet, right? And we potentially could all believe different things. And the question is, what right do you have, right, to enforce by violence, right, your belief system about divine law on someone else, another Muslim, a member of your family, a non-Muslim? What right do you have to do that? You're entitled to your belief, and you and your friends who want to believe can hang out together, whatever. But like when someone's born into the world, what right do you have? And before you answer the question, I want to just come back to my original question, which you didn't really answer. You told me that chapter, that Surah 60, blah blah blah. I'm just telling you that when I read the Quran, right, I know that you just told me that there is a verse somewhere in the Quran that says we should be kind and not.
Let me
there are
very
many
quickly.
other verses which seem to suggest, right, on
you
the face of it,
fight disbelievers.
that disbelievers, right? The word disbeliever, which could mean your enemy, it could mean your son, it could mean your neighbor. I don't know what it means.
It could mean your wife.
It's on everyone.
It could mean your wife, your uncle.
Other page
It could mean your
Quran,
uncle.
it's like,
So when you read
that, let's believe that. I'm reading the book. I'm going, when's God going to get over the whole
Let me
disbelieving
respond
thing?
to your questions.
If God wants us to believe so much, why don't we have more signs? Because we don't have a lot. We have an amazing universe, but we have very little information about the nature of the divine. In fact, you say God divine. You know, God is.
You're
God.
raising a number of points, and let me respond to two of the points you raised. Can we enforce our?
I'll go home in 2 minutes.
No problem. Can we enforce our ways on others? Absolutely not. In Islam, we are not allowed as Muslims to impose our laws upon the Jews and the Christians. Because they were
Hindus?
Not even Hindus. Okay. For example, throughout the Islamic civilization, Jews existed with Muslims.
As dhimmi.
Okay, what does dhimmi mean?
Dhimmi means they didn't have full independence and equality.
Well, you
didn't have quality.
You have a misconception. There were Jewish prime ministers in Spain. Did you know that under Islamic rule, there were Jewish prime ministers, at least two of them, Hazda ibn Shaprut.
You're bringing up a good example. In Iraq, they weren't Jewish prime ministers.
Okay.
And people had to pay a tax. They had to pay a jizya.
You can't have a Jewish prime minister everywhere, can you?
Sorry?
You can't have a Jewish prime minister everywhere, can you?
You seem to be denying a historical story, which I heard, which I believe. Hang on a second. I'm saying there are instances where there are two Jewish prime ministers, but there are many other instances.
If you let me answer your question.
Christians and Jews.
If you let me answer your point.
Second-class citizens in Muslim-majority countries.
First of all, in the Middle Ages, let me explain very quickly. In the Middle Ages, there was no such thing as the second-class citizens. There were Jewish citizens, there were Christian citizens, and there were Muslim citizens. All of them lived by their own rules and their laws. The Jews had their Beth Dins, their own courts. The Christians had their bishops governing their societies. Muslims had their qadis. Okay, you don't believe me? Just pick up any basic history book on Ottomans and non-Muslims, or Al-Andalus and non-Muslims, and you will see how Jews lived their own lives according to their rules, and there was no mullah standing on top of their heads with a sword. You don't do Sharia, we will chop you. No, there was nothing like that. That's the conception you have been fed with by international media and by the international Islamophobia industry. Let me finish. Let me finish. Islamophobia has been spread by two extremist entities: Western politicians and Muslim terrorists. I'll tell you why. Because This is a war between Western politicians who are terrorists and Muslim terrorists who are also terrorists, right? This is a war between them. Who are the victims? We, the Muslims, the majority, right? So how are the Western politicians terrorists? People like Tony Blair, I believe he's a terrorist. Okay. I believe Jeremy Corbyn recently said he should be he should be in Hague for war crimes. He caused the war in Iraq, and that war produced ISIS. ISIS is a product. Okay, so how am I, Sheikh Mohammed or Joe or Terry or George responsible for that?
I'll tell you how. You're not responsible for it at all.
Oh, Muslims, we are Muslims. We are extended Muslims.
You're a victim of it, but I'm not saying you're responsible. What I'm saying is, right, that the ISIS, which came out of the deposed regime of Saddam Hussein.
ISIS came out as a reaction to Iraq invasion.
Yes,
and
they successfully used Islamic text.
Let me talk to you.
Hang on a second.
I'm Muslim Kurdish.
Yes.
Who killed the ISIS? Who killed
Fine,
ISIS?
the Kurds. Very good.
Yeah.
The
Kurds.
I'm Muslim.
Yeah,
very nice. I'm saying that they successfully used Quranic ideas and Islamic texts and Islamic laws, yes, through their disgusting interpretation of Islam, right? And they said,
wait.
They said our terrorism, this is our understanding of Islam, and they found succor in the text of the Quran, the same text that you read at
So tell me which text in the Quran allows the killing of innocent people? ISIS has been killing innocent people. Tell me which text, which verse in the Quran even indirectly allows the killing of innocent people.
Okay, let me ask you a question because I'm not familiar enough with the Quran.
I am.
Is there no text in the Quran which has something to the effect of disbelievers shall be killed?
X, Y, and Z.
Killed. Doesn't say that anywhere in the Quran.
No. Disbelievers, those disbelievers who fight you, Quran says.
No, forget about the fight. It just says they don't believe, then you kill them.
No.
And by the way, even disbelievers who fight you, so you can say anyone you don't like fights you.
Let me respond to your point.
The Quran. I've got to go. Are you here every Sunday?
Last point before you go.
Yeah.
The Quran has many verses on peace, on war, on diplomacy, on wives, on children, on orphans, on society at large. Quran is a book of law. Like the Torah for the Jewish people, the Quran is for us. It is a book of law. It has rules on everything. So how do we actually practice the Quran? By following the Quran and the prophetic example. Prophet told us, in the light of the Quran, when you are in conflict, when you have been attacked and you have to defend yourselves, okay, do not kill women, do not kill children, do not kill non-combatants, do not cut trees, do not destroy crops, do not demolish buildings, do not kill monks, do not kill elderly. All of these rules are there in the teachings of Prophet Muhammad in the light of the Quran. So Quran tells us what? In chapter 2, verse 190, 191 and 192. Quran tells us, fight those who fight you and drive you out of your homes. Fight, defend yourselves, وَلَا تَعْتَدُوا, and do not transgress limits. What is transgression?
I've got to go.
What I just told you. Very nice talking to you. Thank you so much.
I have a quick question because you asked him a lot.
One's going to go.
One question to you.
Yeah, asking him to leave. He's got a
quick answer.
You want to do my daughter's homework?
No, one. I will.
Look, it was very nice talking to you.
What do you
very
think
nice
about
talking to you.
every Sunday?
Almost.
What do you think about Israel doing now to Gaza? Are you aware about that?
I have only 2 words to say about that.
About what?
Okay, it's complicated.
You see?
Yeah, but I
Imagine if the Nazis were saying that about the Jews.
Sorry, I'll come back.
Imagine if they were saying that. You want to come in now?
You literally just compared Israel. You compared Israel, yeah, to that. So just to establish some facts, the Nazis massacred 6 million Jews. We'd have no disagreement on that. A barbaric, horrendous regime.
Absolutely.
They stuck them in concentration camps and killed them.
Absolutely.
Now, whatever's happening in Israel and Palestine, Israel, Gaza, West Bank, call them at the areas what you want. There is not a genocide of 6 million Palestinians.
No, it's not.
The Palestinian population is growing every single year.
Okay. So you're saying one entity has to commit genocide for it to be evil.
I'm saying, so I could say that the Muslims are like Nazis.
Okay.
And if I said that, you'd expect me to bring a burden of proof.
Yes.
And I'd stumble, and I wouldn't be able to show you any of it because there is no history. Of
Let me
trying to
explain.
massacre
Let
the
me
Jews.
explain. I don't think
Like,
I don't think the state of Israel is like Nazis. It has its own evil ways to do things. Every example is unique in its way. Genghis Khan, we can't do a comparison between Genghis Khan and the Nazis. We can't do a comparison between, for example, Tamerlane or Crusaders and the Nazis. They were all evil in their own unique way. Likewise, every apartheid state in the world, whether it was South Africa or whether it was the American South in the 19th century or whether it is Israel today, some academics, as you are well aware, actually believe that Israel is actually an apartheid state. There are Western politicians who are saying the same thing. They believe this. There is a lot of hoo-ha about this. There's a lot of noise about this. If you criticize the state of Israel, people accuse you of anti-Semitism, which is very, very wrong. Okay, being anti-Semitic and being anti-Israeli policies are two different things. If you are anti-Israeli policies in Palestine, you're not anti-Semitic. You're not against the Jewish people. You are against what Israel as a state is doing to the Palestinian people.
You're running around a lot, but let's just stick on one thing. So the Nazis and apartheid. So your analogy, the apartheid analogy is a great one.
Yes.
In apartheid South Africa, there was segregation between blacks and whites. They couldn't drink from the same water fountains. They couldn't attend the same educational institutions.
Yes.
In Israel, Arabs have complete equality with Jews. And Arab judges have sent Jewish prime ministers and Jewish presidents to jail. There is not one Muslim country in the world where a Jewish judge has sent a Muslim prime minister, a Muslim caliph, or a Muslim president to jail. The analogy of apartheid is objectively false, and you will not be able to find one example of any apartheid laws within Israel.
Okay, let's talk about the reality on the ground. Are you aware of the restrictions, or are you aware on the restrictions on the Palestinian people? How they cannot move around freely, how the people of Gaza cannot leave at will, they cannot get treatment, and Gaza is a concentration camp. It is a giant concentration camp with how many people are there in Gaza? What's the population of Gaza?
3 million.
I don't know how many. Sorry?
It's under 3, it's under 2.
It's okay, 2 million.
So
Okay.
they're reducing every year.
Israel has recently bombed residential areas, deliberately targeted. Why do I say deliberately?
Let's stick on the apartheid, then we can go on to the bombing.
Yeah.
So you mentioned freedom of movement, which is a very fair point.
Yeah.
And so if you're a Palestinian living in Gaza, you're absolutely right. There are restrictions on movement. If you're a Palestinian living in the West Bank,
they cannot leave.
So let me finish.
Yeah, they're confined.
Adnan, I listen to you. Please give me the same courtesy.
Yeah.
So with Gaza has 2 borders.
Yeah.
Israel and Hamas have been at war since the 80s. Israel and Gaza have been at war since basically 67. Israel and the Egyptians, who conquered it beforehand, have been at war since the 48. Israel has basically been at war with that region for the last 71 years. Yeah? Gaza has 2 borders. It has one with Israel and one with Egypt. There is no freedom of movement between Egypt and Gaza, which are basically the same people. They're both Arabs. Al-Masri is one of the most common surnames in Gaza, which means the Egyptian. And so if any nation were to give freedom of movement to the Palestinians that were living in Gaza, it wouldn't be Israel, because Israel is at war with Gaza. It would be Egypt, because they're the same family.
Good point.
And so my point is, it's very easy to blame Israel for everything.
Have you been to Gaza?
I've been to the crossing. I've been to the Erez crossing. I can't go in because I've
been to Gaza.
Which year?
2009.
Was that within Nepal?
When Gaza was bombed,
yes,
and many people died, I took aid to Gaza. I only went as a humanitarian aid worker, and I delivered aid, and I saw the destruction with my own eyes, and I saw what the Egyptians did to the people of Gaza. Now, you make a very good point. It should be the Egyptians, the Muslim brothers of the people of Gaza, who should. But is Egypt an independent state currently in the Middle East?
So I would say it is as sovereign as Israel is.
No, it's not. It's not.
Okay,
Egypt, I know for a fact, orders come directly from Israel to Egyptians. Egyptians are told,
They say that the soldiers, they cannot hold even their own weapons.
Yes, they can't. They can't. You see, the Egyptian people, if it was for Egyptian people, if it was for
there is a life example, by the way, for he was it's not just only for the Palestinians, even for the Muslims. There is a revered sister. She could speak. She went to Palestine just to visit Jerusalem. That's all what she. That's all her guilt. That's all her sin. They put her in the airport, in Tel Aviv airport, and then they jailed her overnight. They put her in jail. Why? She until now she didn't know what's happening. Just because she was wearing the headscarf, and she's a revert sister. Even she said, "I'm a revert." She wasn't born as a Muslim, and she accepted Islam.
It happened to me. It happened to me. Hello. I went to the Israeli border from the Jordanian side as a teacher. No weapons. I'm not a politician. I was searched for 3 hours. Everyone is, not that I was singled out. Everyone is searched. You have to go through humiliating searches at the border. And you see these Israeli kids walking around mocking the Arabs. Mocking on their faces, taunting them and saying all kinds. I saw it with my own eyes. Wait, let me finish. I saw it with my own eyes. We were patient and they told me, you do dawah? I said, yes, I do dawah. A young lady in her early 20s, she interviewed me. She said, why are you here? I said, I'm here as a teacher. I'm here as a pilgrim. I simply want to go to Al-Aqsa. I want to visit. I want to pray. I want to teach Muslims about the importance of Al-Aqsa. She said, you do dawah. We checked. You do dawah. I said, yes, I do dawah. Dawah is beautiful. She said, okay. And she comes back to me. She goes, you're not allowed. You cannot go because you do dawah. Okay. So, come on, you can talk to people, you can try to deceive people about what Israel is doing, but we're not living in a cave anymore. We're not living in a cave anymore.
No. Can I please respond?
Yeah, can you let him respond?
I've been 9 hours to check me out in the border.
Okay.
There was a difference between you and me.
So,
What do you mean?
What's the difference?
What's the point you're making?
By the border to go to Jerusalem.
Right.
9 hours in the customs.
They didn't allow me. They didn't allow me. They didn't allow me. They didn't allow me.
Can I, Adnan, focus on me. Focus on me, because I can actually give real.
So this is the problem. It's good for not allowing you.
It doesn't make it clear.
Can you let Joseph speak?
Please let me speak.
Please.
So, two things. First and foremost, if I went to Gaza, it's not I wouldn't be allowed in, I'd be killed. Literally killed if I went to Gaza. It's why I don't go there. Any Jew that enters Gaza would be killed. So you can walk around as a Muslim. There's a video online, anyone can see it. Sheikh Solomon Ghani, who you're probably friends with, you probably know. There's a video of him talking at the Western Wall, at the Kotel, saying that the Jews are praying for its destruction, which is a nonsense. Jews don't pray for the destruction of Masjid al-Aqsa, but he's literally almost cursing out Jews at one of our holiest place. The holiest place.
If he did that, he's wrong.
No, I'm not saying that. But what I'm giving an example is many Muslims go on Hajj or go on pilgrimage.
Of course, you're right.
To
be very fair, you're right.
And I would imagine.
I know Muslims who are there right now.
Yeah, and
right now in Ramadan, they're in Al-Aqsa. I agree.
Those Muslims there. It's very important for Jews and Muslims to visit this site. It's the only way we make peace.
So are you saying?
Can I ask one question?
Yes.
Was your denial of entry to Israel after you'd visited Gaza?
Yes.
And I would imagine that would have more as a security threat. You would have been considered more of a security threat than, say, Sheikh Solomon Ghani, who's coming from London to Israel. Had you come directly to Israel, you probably would have
possibly. That's a fair point. I understand that because I went to Gaza, so the assumption could be that he went to Gaza, so he's a red dot on him.
And I will also add that there are racist Israelis.
Yes.
Just like there's racist British people,
yes.
and there's racist.
Yeah, there are many racist Israelis. Because the ones I saw at the border were very racist. They were very, very ugly people. Their behavior was very ugly.
I can't talk for your.
Come on, you want to have the best people at the border. You want to give a good impression of your state. You want to. If I had, and to be fair, we have this problem with Saudi Arabia. We are not an unjust people. We don't do injustice, right? When you go to Saudi Arabia, we get complaints that some of these Saudi visa, immigration officers, they're very bad. Not all of them, some of them, and we complain about them. We talk about them. Not that we are unfair, we are unjust, no. But when it comes to Israel, right, there is a specific point. They are repeatedly killing Palestinians. Civilians, children, they just bombed a residential area. In Ramadan, they bombed.
With respect, most Jews just lost pity. Israel's a very small community. And there were 650 rockets fired into Israel. I know there's an Englishman who I'm friends with, his house was destroyed. So there was conflict, there was death on both sides.
There is death on both sides. What I think is fundamentally important here is the border of Gaza. Yeah, there is an existential threat to Israel. Israel faces annihilation every breathing moment of its existence. Saudi Arabia doesn't.
Do you think the Israeli government is occupying land unfairly?
So unfairly. So this is a changing the conversation.
If you come and sit in my sitting room, I have a very nice sitting room. You come in with a gun, with an Uzi. You come in with an Uzi, Israeli made in Israel. You sit in my sitting room and you tell me, you, your wife, your children in the toilet. Okay, my parents in the kitchen. Go and die there, and do not leave. Don't leave the toilet. If you leave the toilet, we're going to shoot you in the chest. Okay, and then people come from outside to help us. Oh, let them come into the living room. They want the living room back. They want, and then what happens? You spray the Uzi. Shh, drrr, Uzi. You've seen Uzi, yeah? It's very fast when it shoots, yeah. In the movies we have seen it, right? I've never seen one in my life, by the way. So you know Miami Vice. There used to be a movie back in the day, yeah. And so how do you feel about that?
Okay, perfect point. So the Sheikh here is from Jordan, yeah? So the reason the West Bank is called the West Bank is because it's considered the West Bank of Jordan.
Yeah.
In 1948, Jordan conquered the West Bank.
That's not true.
No, it made it part, and that's why all Palestinians were offered the right to
Jordan never conquered. Jordan never conquered anything.
Stop.
How did you say this? We used to fight.
Sheikh, listen.
Let him finish.
I was respectful to you.
Yeah,
Don't
please.
have at me.
Please.
So in 1948,
That's funny,
in 1948,
Yes.
Jordan took control of the West Bank. It declared itself sovereign over the West Bank. Britain and Pakistan recognised that sovereignty. The Palestinians, on the they weren't yet Palestinians.
Britain recognised it.
Britain recognised Jordan's sovereignty over the West Bank.
Okay.
The green line that everyone talks about, the 1949 armistice line, was the temporary peace treaty between Jordan and Israel. That's now the green line. This is where you're getting it. You're in my house. But what I'm trying to tell you, before you laughed at me, which isn't a very Islamic thing to do, by the way,
What do you say conquered? Conquered is not the right word.
So was there a military army in there? Did they have their troops in there?
You choose the worst example, actually.
Okay,
the worst. But
was the Jordanian army in there?
Listen.
Was the Jordanian? Jordan is Jordan, not the West Bank. And they had their troops there.
We are not discussing about Jordan or Palestine.
But that's convenient.
We're not discussing that.
That's
We're not discussing that.
The point is, Joseph, the issue, the conflict, what is the purpose? I mean, Jews and Muslims have lived together in peace for centuries. Muslims protected the Jewish people from extinction. I don't say this, Jewish historians are saying this. They are saying this, that the Jewish people were saved, they were protected from extinction by the Muslims. Whether they were the Andalusian Muslims or whether they were the Ottomans or in the Middle East. Jews were protected for over 1,000 years by Muslims. What changed suddenly? Why are now...
Jews in the Arab world.
Why is this conflict there? The conflict is there because something changed. Dynamics changed. Geography changed. These very vulnerable Jewish people who were entirely dependent upon Muslim protection for over 1,000 years suddenly became very powerful. They got their hands on weapons and they occupied land that never belonged to them.
So
if we study the history of Zionism, I'm finishing. Theodor Herzl, right? He went to the Ottoman Sultan. This is well documented. This is not legend. This is not stories people telling like Ertugrul, you know, the drama. Yeah. It's not like that. Sultan Abdul Hamid was approached by Theodor Herzl, who went to the Sultan and he said, give us Palestine and we will pay your debt. The debt you owe to the Europeans, we will pay it. Sultan Abdul Hamid refused. He plainly refused. He said, Palestine is not mine to give it to you. It belongs to the Muslims. It's not mine. So what happened? The First World War happened and the outcome was the British mandate and lo and behold, the State of Israel. Okay, on gunpoint, a lot of land was taken. You know about Nakba, yeah? Nakba? Is it Nakba? Nakba, sorry, Nakba. Nakba, the catastrophe. You know about it.
Yeah.
What happened?
Okay, so just before we go there,
you
kind of run a... So what tends to happen in these conversations is we deal with the point, and then when I'm debating a Muslim will tend to say, but the Jews and the Muslims always get along. Look at how great
we do. We are getting along, yes.
I think it's always a respectful conversation with you.
Yes, absolutely.
What I would say is, it's very, very easy to say, when confronted with today's politics, but it was good in the past. And at times it was good, and as we've agreed before, at times it wasn't great. what fundamentally changed, with the Jews actually gain their independence and stop being subservient to the Muslims. You said the Jews got weapons, they got this, they got, and I wouldn't argue with that. The Jews did. They were able to arm themselves. They were able, as we see.
I wouldn't say Jews. I would say Zionists. I would say Zionists.
Can I try
not
the
Jews.
Can I make my point, please, Adnan? The overwhelming majority of Jews in the
I
world
would say Zionists.
The overwhelming majority of Jews in the world today are Zionists, so it's a moot point. What I was trying to say
that's
was
debatable.
Is that true?
It's not debatable in almost every poll. And so there's almost every poll.
Which statistic that you are referring to?
So from
is it your own?
it's a combination. So in America, you would look at the ADL surveys. In the UK, you would look at Jewish policy research and BICOM surveys.
So all the Jewish people we see in Stamford Hill and in Golders Green, you're telling me all those Orthodox Jews are Zionists?
The overwhelming majority of Orthodox Jews in Golders Green, definitely.
That's your claim.
In Stamford Hill, you have Satmar and Nature Carter who are against.
Yes.
You then have communities like Bells, which are on the indifferent. And so there's a spectrum of opinion within Ashkenazi, ultra-Orthodox, or what we call Haredi Judaism.
Okay.
But it's a tangent, because what I'm trying to say is Zionism should be seen as the ultimate inspirational story of liberation. Nobody here would argue that the Jews were oppressed. Nobody here would argue that the Jews were slaughtered.
By Muslims?
No, at times, but most of the time, no.
Well, at times the Jews are slaughtering people.
Can I just try and make my point?
Well,
Adnan, I let you speak. Please let me speak.
Yeah.
And what happened was, through our own strength, in our own courage, we were able to overthrow those that oppressed us. We were able to establish a homeland, which, in theory,
Are you a Jew?
yes, I am a Jew.
You're
but
Jewish,
please,
yes,
please,
yes.
please.
No,
We're
we're
having
having a
a separate
discussion.
conversation. It's not an open debate. It's not a Q&A. And so all I'm trying to say is it should be seen as an inspiration. In the same way that if the Palestinians were to achieve national liberation, you could argue the same argument. Here's the story of inspiration. The Palestinians, I would agree, the situation in Gaza is horrible. It's one of the things that I pray is improved. I don't want...
Keep praying.
Yeah, no, I do. I pray... Like you, Adnan, I also pray for peace. Most Jews pray for peace. Most Israelis pray for peace. Most Zionists pray for peace.
Most Zionists pray for peace?
Overwhelming majority. Yeah, every single Zionist prays for peace.
So if a South African black told you that most whites pray for peace, they want the apartheid to be lifted, how would you feel about that?
How many Zionists do you actually know, with the greatest respect?
The ones I've met, my experience has been very unpleasant. When I met them in Israel, I didn't want to see them again.
So you're dealing with one of probably the most visible Zionists in the UK, myself.
Well, you're one of the nice Zionists.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All Zionist means is you support Israel's right to exist as a Jewish country. In the same way that you could say...
We as Muslims, in that sense, we are Zionists as well. Let me tell you, we support the right of the Israelis to exist. We support,
as a sovereign
let
nation.
me clarify, we support the right of the Israelis to exist, and not only exist with prosperity, with peace, and love and compassion. We support all that, but we do not support the right of the Israelis to live in someone else's living room.
Okay, so let's get...
That's the distinction.
Let's come back to the...
Is that clear?
So
we love the Jewish people as our brothers in humanity. We love them, we have sympathy for them, we have compassion for them. We have been taught by our Prophet to have compassion towards the Jewish people. It is in the Treaty of Medina.
Yeah.
It is in the Constitution of Medina. The words are there that you must extend sympathetic treatment to the Jewish people. Therefore, our civilization, hence the Muslim civilization protecting the Jews for over 1,000 years. But what we do not appreciate, that a Muslim entity or a Jewish entity claiming to be Jewish or a Christian entity comes into our lands and takes it by force. For example, look, ISIS. Why are we against ISIS? Why are we against ISIS? We are against ISIS because of the crimes ISIS has committed. Why are we against